Hi. Let's talk today about how a dysregulated nervous system actually blocks manifestations. So let's imagine you've got something that you really want to do. You probably have something in your life currently, a project or something that you're really feeling you'd like to move forward on, or even something related to your health, some new behaviors, new patterns, new healthy lifestyle that you'd like to implement. And you know all the information, let's say for the project, you're qualified, you're prepared, you're passionate, you're excited about changing your health, but something keeps going wrong and something keeps getting in the way. And each time you get closer to maybe what you want, but at the same time, you end up shutting down or sabotaging yourself. And you end up starting to think like, what's wrong with me, right? This is what the thoughts that end up in our mind. And this is a very common story for a lot of people. So many people are conscious and capable, but yet they still find themselves in this pattern, longing for more, but somehow unable to receive it. And the answer isn't always just in your mindset. It can be. Sometimes it can just be tweaking your mindset and things can change quickly. But also sometimes there's another hidden story or a hidden pattern that's actually in the nervous system. And so every protective response in your body was actually learned through some sort of past experience where the body went through some sort of fear or trauma and it went into protective mode. So, somewhere along the way, your nervous system decided it wasn't safe to be fully seen, to really succeed, or to rest deeply, or to feel too much. And so maybe you've learned that visibility leads to criticism or attack, right? That's a scary thing about being seen. Maybe success triggers jealousy and isolation. Um, Maybe slowing down actually means falling behind. You can kind of hear some of the beliefs that are behind some of these patterns. Maybe you believe that joy is always followed by pain, or having too much makes other people uncomfortable. And so these aren't really conscious beliefs, but they're embodied knowing. They're really stored in your cells, in your breath patterns, your posture, and your automatic responses. So, really, a lot of times these things are hidden. And so, your nervous system has this unconscious ability to detect safety or danger without you consciously even being aware of it. And this happens beneath your awareness faster than thinking, and it determines whether you approach life from a place of openness and curiosity, or you're going to approach it with protection and wanting to make sure that you're safe at all times. So you might actually consciously want to manifest more money, right? Or success, a new job, better relationships. But if your nervous system detects some sort of threat, right, there's this neural pathway basically that's been detecting threat and pain from past experiences, then it's even harder to get to those places where you want to have success. And then it also feels like, oh my gosh, if I get successful, then I might be a target. So your nervous system will choose safety over expansion every time. And actually, in actual fact, if you think about it, this really is an intelligence that's happening in the body to protect you. So when your nervous system perceives threat, it activates one of three primary responses. So you've got fight or flight, which is that sympathetic activation. So you become hypervigilant, controlling, perfectionist. You work harder, you plan more, you try to force outcomes, right? Your mind is basically in those high beta brainwave states. Um, you might find yourself in constant motion, unable to rest. snacking, distracting yourself with social media or with food, and always pushing towards the next goal, but never really able to receive what you achieve because you're in this fight or flight sympathetic part of the nervous system. Or you can be, the second one would be freeze. So you become numb, right? You disconnect, you're unable to take action, and your dreams feel impossible. You might procrastinate, disassociate, or find yourself saying yes when you mean no because you've lost touch with your own desires. And then the third, so we've got fight or flight, we got freeze, and then we have fawn. So you actually prioritize others' needs over your own, giving away your power to keep the peace. So you might manifest opportunities, but immediately you give them away or find yourself in relationships where you're constantly accommodating and never truly receiving. So you're just giving to everyone else except yourself. So each of these responses, they serve you on some level and they helped you survive circumstances where being fully yourself wasn't safe. And then now they're actually might be preventing you from thriving. So is there a pathway to receiving? The beautiful truth is that the same nervous system that learned protection can also learn reception. And the key is creating new experiences of safety, but not through thinking, but through feeling. So, really getting in touch with more of how you're feeling. Because, of course, our society has really taught us to be in our mind, right? We're always thinking, and we forget about our feelings and about feeling and our body and where it's at. So, really, reception requires a nervous system that believes it's safe to be seen in your full power. Success won't lead you to abandonment or attack. You deserve to receive without having to earn it through suffering, because we often think we have to suffer in order to get things. Um, and joy can actually be sustained without waiting for the other shoe to drop. And your desires are actually worthy of manifestation and they're really important to you. And you wouldn't have that desire unless it was actually really possible for it to happen. So really we almost need to think of it as we're retraining ourselves for receptivity. And this retraining isn't going to happen overnight and it doesn't happen through willpower, but it does happen through small steps, right? So let's say small, consistent experiences that show your nervous system it's safe to expand. And let's think of an example. An example would be receiving a compliment without deflecting it or turning it down, or, asking for help without apologizing, and taking up space without shrinking. So these are small little ways where you're showing your nervous system, you're giving it experiences where it's okay to be safe while you expand. You can also, of course, have somatic experiences, and that means we're in our body, right? We're using the body's natural capacity to release held trauma. And there's a lot of modalities out there for this today: breath work, movement, yoga, of course, being one of them, fascial maneuvers, fascial stretching, sound, one of my favorites, and any kind of body work, right? All of this is allowing the body to release the trauma and to be held in safety. Another way is co-regulation, so experiencing safety in relationship with others. And that can be in therapy, so one-on-one sessions with someone who's holding space for you while you are, working through some of your thoughts, feelings, in community, going to sound baths. I do a lot of sound baths and being held in community that way with like-minded people, you feel safe. And of course, we can get regulation of our nervous system in nature and with animals, with pets. And I think it's also important that we acknowledge and honor each small step that we make towards receptivity. So honoring that and taking stock of all the things that you're doing to actually feel more safe and to recognize this new pattern that you're in of feeling safe and desirable. So when you begin to shift from protection to reception, what can happen is your manifestations, um, their quality starts to change. Because as I've said before, we're always manifesting, good or bad, in every moment. We are always manifesting. So this is not really like now you can manifest, you're always manifesting, but it's the quality of your manifestation. So instead of forcing outcomes, you become magnetic to opportunities, meaning opportunities come to you easily and effortlessly. You are instead of achieving through struggle, you create just a flow, right? Flow just starts to happen in these opportunities. One of the most important ones is instead of manifesting from fear, um, you manifest from safety, from knowing, from love, from knowing that you deserve, um, a quality of life that feels more sustainable. Because oftentimes we make choices and we manifest from a place of fear, trying to get away from something in order to get over here. And instead of receiving conditionally, you're really open to really the abundance of the universe as it is, as its natural state. It is always abundant. So let's bring this into practical, which I love to do. Um, so let's identify, let's say, your protection pattern. So when you think about your biggest desire, what happens in your body? So I want you to think of one thing that you have right now that's a really big desire and just start to notice somatically, notice what happens in your body when you think of that. Do you feel excited or do you get anxious? Do you feel expanded or do you contract? And as always, what would your nervous system need to feel safer about receiving this desire? And these are really good journal questions to sit and just allow whatever thoughts and feelings flow through. So each day, again, practicing receiving something small without giving anything back. Again, letting someone compliment you and just saying thank you, right? Allowing someone to help you and without you feeling like you have to reciprocate immediately, just receiving help and it's okay. And receiving the pleasure from simple things, a sunrise, a sunset, you know, some beautiful music that you're listening to, and just feeling it all without any guilt. Another thing that you can do as a little exercise is to write a letter actually to your nervous system, to your protective parts. And there's I guess a modality or there's a system out there called family systems, and family systems looks at the parts because we do, if you think about it, when you're in conversation with someone, you'll say, well, there's a part of me that feels this way and there's a part of me that feels this way. So how about you get connected with the part of you that feels protective, right? And you could write a letter to it saying, thank you for keeping me safe when I needed it. I honor how you helped me survive. And now I'm learning that it's safe to receive. And I love your support in this new way of being. So, just writing a letter to this protective part, noticing all the ways that it's been protecting you and saying thank you to it and letting it know that from here on in, you're going to be making new choices from a more embodied, safe place. And just remember that your protective patterns aren't necessarily your enemy and they're not bad. They're just parts of you that actually need to be honored and gradually, shown a new way, shown that there's safety in this now moment. And, really, I often suggest to clients, you would speak to this part of you as you would to your own child, or, um, a family member. You would speak with patience, with tenderness. You would be compassionate. And that's how you should speak to your nervous system. And then that way, over time, your nervous system actually chooses to be receptive, overprotective. And it's not to say that, of course, there are times where it's appropriate for our nervous system to be protective and for our nervous system to want to be scanning the external environment and keeping us safe. And we're not talking about those situations where we're appreciative that our nervous system does it and we need to do that. Like, I think of, walking into an intersection that's very busy right now. It's busy. That's an example I can think of. But we're talking about all the other times where our nervous system is going into overdrive and going into fight or flight and going into sympathetic, like all day, most of the day. And it's worrying about all sorts of things and going into protective mode, and future tripping about something going bad when in the now moment, there's just everything is okay. So that's what we're tuning into. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of that today, if that was helpful. And yeah, keep listening, keep taking time to sit and to listen and to journal about how you're really feeling, how your body's feeling, how your nervous system is. That's what you're tapping into. So let me know how it goes, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.